Hey, everybody. Welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us. So we have a special episode going on right now with none other than the Brent Coley. So, Brent, welcome to EduMatch.
Thank you, Sarah. Totally stoked to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, same here. Glad to have you on. So we just saw you like last hour. You were moderating a great conversation on the power of storytelling. So that was really fun. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for your awesome book, Stories of EduInfluence. So that is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know Brent, let me tell you a little bit about him. He began his career in education in '96, teaching grades 4 and 5 for 15 years before he transitioned into administration. And he's currently the proud principal of Alta Murrieta Elementary School in Murrieta, California. Brent is passionate about ed tech and always looking for new ways that tech can engage students and families while increasing student achievement. So he has a great classroom website, MrColey.com, which promoted 24/7 learning with math review videos and iPod flashcards, and his students shared their learning with the world through their daily blog and classroom podcast. So in his leadership role, Brent strives to support teachers as they pursue excellence by integrating technology and taking risks in their classrooms. Yes. So a firm believer in the power of collaboration, Brent shares what he learns through Twitter, at his website, BrentColey.com, and also at EdTech conferences. He's a creator of Teaching Tales, which is a podcast that gives educators a platform to share their stories and experiences. Brent also loves to spend time with his wife and his 2 teenage children. He loves to read and he loves to play golf. So that is awesome, Brent. So again, we are super excited to have you here. So if you could tell us a little bit about your background and who or what inspired you to go into education.
Yeah, well, again, Sarah, thank you for the opportunity. I'm totally excited to chat. And so my background in terms of education is not what you hear from a lot of folks, where a lot of folks will say, "Oh, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher," or "I grew up playing teacher where I set my action figures up or my dolls or whatever." That wasn't me. I wanted to be a computer programmer growing up. And my dad worked for a computer distributor. So, and this is back in like the late 70s, early 80s. So I had a computer in the home and was learning to program in the basic language when I was in 4th grade. So I always wanted to be a computer programmer. Teaching was one of those like that would be fun, but I never really considered it because I was going to be a computer programmer. And when people say, "Why did you become a teacher?" the short answer is because I couldn't do calculus. That I had to take 4 semesters of calculus at the junior college before transferring to the 4-year university, and I got a D the first semester. Not good. I took it over and got a B. Well, that's okay. Went to the second semester, took that class and got a D again, and realized I don't have time to take everything twice. So at that point, I remember sitting down with my family and just made that life decision to, you know what, teaching's always been something that I thought would be great, be fun. It's time to seriously entertain this. And I did switch my major, and one of the best decisions I've ever made.
That is super cool. Sometimes the world will just like, show us the path where we're supposed to go. So I totally hear you on that. That is, we are so glad to have you in the field. So you just released an amazing book, Stories of EduInfluence. So could you please tell us about that?
I would be happy to. So yeah, basically everybody loves stories. Like, I don't know about you, I've never met someone who doesn't like a good story. Everybody likes stories. And for me, the only thing better than a good story is a story with a message. And that's what I try to do with the book Stories of EduInfluence. EduInfluence is the term that I came up with to describe that life-changing impact that educators have, regardless of our role, whether we're a classroom teacher, a playground supervisor, a librarian, a cafeteria worker, a site administrator. We have the ability, we have life-changing powers. And in the book, what I do is I share stories. The whole book is stories from my experience, 23 plus years in the field. People say, "Oh, you should write a book someday." Well, I did. I took those stories, but what I do is I illustrate those life-changing powers through some of my experiences. So every chapter is a different power. So for example, there's the power of a name, the power of relationships, the power of belief, the power of the little things, the power of fun, the power of apology. And I use stories from my experiences, both as a classroom teacher and a elementary school principal, a middle school assistant principal, to illustrate those powers, because pretty much we've all wondered, if you've been in education for more than 2 weeks, you've probably had that, am I making a difference type question you've asked yourself. I wrote this book to remind people and to hopefully encourage and inspire educators. You do make a difference, even more than you realize. So that's the book in a nutshell.
That is powerful. That is super powerful. And I remember the first time we had you on as a special guest, like maybe about a year ago, and you were saying, you know, I have an idea for this book and I have a couple chapters written, and now you've done it and it's out there. And that is just so awesome to see that come like full circle. So awesome, awesomeness. So what was your motivation? I know you touched on it a little bit, but what did you have any other kind of motivation for writing the book as well?
Yeah, the idea was hatched probably about, oh gosh, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was actually at the Q conference talking with my friend Dennis Rice. I still remember that, where we were, and just kind of had the idea. It started really as an idea, more of a session to present at a conference, to kind of, because again, if you're like me, anytime you're in a session, or if I'm in church or anything like that, and this speaker starts a story, it engages us. And I remember thinking, gosh, we all have stories. I have a ton of stories. Why not tell those stories and include with those stories the lessons that I've learned from those experiences? And again, the book it's full of its successes, like from humble successes to some epic failures. Like one of my biggest regrets is in chapter 6. It's like the thing like, oh my gosh, if I could take that back, I would. So I remember thinking, kind of developing the idea as a session. And then over the last year and a half, I remember thinking, I had the opportunity to speak at a couple conferences, to give a keynote address. And I talked about EduInfluence, and I shared the stories. And I remember after giving those talks thinking, I want to get this message out to more people. That was the motivating factor. Why did I write this? I want to reach more people. And I thought, gosh, with a book, I mean, there's a couple hundred people at this conference right now, which is great. I'm able to reach hopefully those people. But a book, you just have the ability to put it in more people's hands. And I just want to, I know I've said this to you before, but again, I am so appreciative of you and EduMatch Publishing for making this dream come true and giving me the opportunity and the platform to get this message out to hopefully people, so that if they're feeling discouraged or uninspired or doubting that they're making a difference, hopefully this can be that little boost to let them know, hey, hang in there. You are making a difference. You've got more power than you realize.
Absolutely. And I have to say thank you, because, oh my goodness, just it's been an honor being part of this journey. I feel like your book is so powerful. And like you said, that helps people to realize the impact that we have. So our EduInfluence, if you will. So yeah. So speaking of impact, what impact do you hope that this has on the reader?
I just want them, number one, I hope that they would be entertained. It is in that's the stories I've written, that some of the stories will make you smile, some of them will make you laugh, and some of them may make you cry. And I want the reader to kind of be entertained, one, but it's not just an entertain. The purpose is not to entertain. The purpose is to encourage and inspire. Because again, as I write in the closing chapter of the book, we preach often what we need to hear. And I had an experience just this last week where I remember talking with a couple friends, and I said, like, I need to go read chapter 11 of my book because I need to read what I wrote, because that chapter talks about going the extra mile and how it's worth it. And I was having I won't get into what exactly it was, but I was frustrated with something. And it's like, wait a second, I've written about that. I need to go read what I wrote, and hopefully I can encourage myself and remind myself that I'm making a difference, even though it doesn't feel like it right now.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. And I love, like, when we do things like that, when we write, when we blog, when we podcast, whatever, then that shows us where we've been, and a lot of times, you know, predicts the future for us as well. Like, we can still draw on that, and it can reinvigorate us as well as others. Yeah.
Amen.
Totally. So we were talking offline. We are going to meet face to face for the first time this week. And it feels like we've known each other forever, but we've never met face to face. So that's going to be at Q19. So what do you have planned for Q19? I know it's going to be jam-packed for you. So tell us a little bit about what you have planned.
Yeah, well, I just tweeted out a few minutes ago. I'm so excited it's my favorite conference of the year, because it's such a great opportunity to, number one, meet new people, because I think there's going to be 5,000 or 6,000 people at the conference, but also just to meet members of my PLN face to face, either again, or like with you, I'm going to get to meet you face to face for the very first time. I'm super excited that on Friday morning, the 15th, March 15th, I'm going to be at the Meet the Authors event with you. We'll have stories of EduInfluence for sale there, and I can sign that if anyone wants me to sign a copy of the book. Well, that's at 7:30 in the morning, 7:30 to 8:15, and then right after that, I'm super honored for the opportunity to participate in the Q Booms. Q Boom is something that they started. Ann Cosma, the one and the only Ann Cosma, came up with the idea of Q Boom. So basically, there's going to be 9 or 10 people on stage, and each of us gets 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes and 9 slides each to basically talk about something that we are passionate about in 3 minutes. So it's kind of, it's like a Red Bull energy drink to get the conference started on the right track. I am passionate about sharing. One of the reasons I wrote the book too is I love to share. I want to pay that forward. So I'm essentially going to be talking about chapter 4 in the book, which is the power of sharing. I'm going to try to take chapter 4 in 3 minutes, which so it's the total Cliff Note version, but and actually I will be sharing, because I believe in the power of storytelling, a story that's not in the book, something that happened just a couple of months ago that is a, oh my goodness, example of the power of sharing. So I'm super excited about that. I'm going to be hanging out with you in the EduMatch booth in the convention hall. What do they call that? The expo.
The exhibit hall.
Yeah. In the exhibit hall, I'll be hanging out with you on, I can't remember the time. I just tweeted out what I'll be hanging out with, an hour on Friday, and then another hour again on Saturday. So, and I think you'll have my book, but also other EduMatch books available for purchase there. So, yeah, I'm as I said off the air, this is like my geek fest. I so love Q. Again, I wanted to be a computer programmer growing up. Educational technology was something that enabled me to combine my two great passions, teaching and technology. So Q is like 48 hours, 2.5 days of just sheer awesomeness. So I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, I'm excited as well. That is awesome. And we actually share that, like the career, like the different trajectory, and then ending up being able to merge those interests of education and tech. Same here. So I totally feel you on that. So that is awesome. Cannot wait to see you. So speaking of stories and sharing stories, so if other educators were compelled to tell a story, what advice would you give them?
The advice that I would give to any educator, number one, is tell your story. Because everybody has a story. Everybody has multiple stories. So I would number one say, don't be afraid to tell your story, because somebody will benefit from them. Not could benefit, somebody will benefit from it. And the second piece of advice I would give is your story doesn't have to just be those successes. As I kind of said before, when I think oftentimes we learn from when we stumble. So I think sometimes for me, sharing those stories of times when, oh man, I blew it in this case, or I should have done this, but I learned from it. When we can share those with other people, number one, it will encourage that person. Oh, I'm not the only one who doesn't get it right the first time. So yeah, just tell your story. Don't get it out there, because kind of like somebody needs to hear it. Just straight up, somebody needs to hear your story.
Yeah, totally. And there's a quote from you that I'm probably going to bungle, but I'll paraphrase it. You were saying that I believe that somebody is Googling exactly what you have to share right now, or something to that effect.
Right.
Yeah, you could probably say it better than me.
And that'll be in the Cube Room as well. But yeah, right now, someone is looking for what you have. If you just stop and let that sink in, anyone listening, right now, someone's at their computer, tablet, smartphone, searching for what you have. And maybe it's a story. So again, if it's a story, somebody needs to hear what you have to say, or write, or blog about, or somebody needs, how you get it out there is not as important as making the decision to get it out there.
Yeah, that is so powerful and so true, just how much we can learn from one another. So I want to switch gears for a quick second. So I first met you through your podcast. You had me on as a guest on the Teaching Tales podcast. So could you tell us a little bit about that? One of my favorite podcasts, by the way.
Thank you. And I've got a couple episodes that I'm lined. It's been a few weeks since I've put an episode out, but yeah. Teaching Tales, this was it kind of around the same time, a little bit before I decided to write the book. It's a podcast where every episode I have a different guest on. You were one of the guests. I've had I think we've had 56 or 57 episodes. Different guest comes on each time, and each episode kind of has a theme. I think we talked about connecting in terms of the ability of technology, like you were just saying, to connect people like you and I who've never met in real life, but how we can learn from each other. And the whole purpose of the podcast is to give people a voice to share their stories. So again, we had Brent Coley on, another EduMatch author, Level Up Leadership. And in that episode, we talked about just shared funny stories of times when students made us laugh that were just and we've had John Carippo on, we've had Bill Selleck, we've had Ann Cosma, we've had some amazing we've had some amazing guests on there, and I'm excited to line up a few other guests. Chuck Poole is one that we've been kind of playing calendar tag to try to but I've got one set up with Chuck, and John Martinez from Between the Johns. We're looking to set one up with him. So yeah, if you like stories, Teaching Tales is stories. It's just two of us. There's no script. There's no questions. It's just, we just kind of go back and forth and share stories and the lessons that we've learned from those experiences.
That is super cool. Super cool. So always love hearing new episodes and people's stories that we might not always hear. So, definitely love, love, love that you do that. So how can people get in touch with you online, Brent?
Oh, right. So online, I'm on Twitter. Twitter is one of my, I love Twitter. At Brent Coley, BrentColey, all one word. I tweet and I'm there a lot. My website is brentcoley.com. On the website, I've got the podcast, Teaching Tales Podcast. I have a blog on there. I don't blog consistently, but I do have a lot of posts on there. I'm on Instagram as well. You can look me up there. But the big thing, I would say Twitter and my website, brentcoley.com or at Brent Coley. That's how I love to share and connect with other educators. So.
Well, awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. And everybody check out Stories of EduInfluence. It's a great read. So you can find it books.edumatch.org/EduInfluence. Definitely check that out. Check out Brent's website, brentcoley.com. Check him out on Twitter at Brent Coley. He's also on Instagram. So yes. All right. So super excited. So next week, we are going to be off of a live panel. We're not doing a live panel. However, still tune in at the same bad time, same bad channel, because we will be doing an EduMatch. That's supposed to be like a record spinning backwards. We're going to be doing an EduMatch rewind from June 7th, 2015. And the topic is, how has being connected changed you personally? So not just professionally, but personally. So diving into that personal learning network side of the PLN or PLF. So awesomeness. So everybody have a great week. Can't wait to see y'all and see you all at Q19 for those who will be there.
Yep,
Brent and I will see you there. All right. Stop by booth 635. All right. Bye, everybody.